Welcome to the Perspectives with Catherine Toon podcast.
All right, everybody. Welcome to Perspectives with Catherine Toon. I have some near and dear repeat offenders, repeat friends on the podcast today. Channock, Banet, and Cory Rice. Welcome. I'm so happy to have you back.
Yeah, so glad to be here.
Thanks for having us.
It has been, like a year? I'm trying to remember when I had you guys on. It's been a bit.
Probably maybe 6 months. It was last fall.
Yeah. So you're better at memory than mine. But anyway, so it's so great to have you back. And there have been some updates with you guys that I'm excited about. A lot of updates.
Yeah, I would say a lot has happened in the last 6 to 8 months since we last talked for both of us. So yeah, just excited to be here, be on your podcast. Appreciative of the invite, and just excited to kind of share what we've been experiencing together, but also just individually in our own lives with with our own focus that we've been really just really diving into a lot of cool, new, exciting things.
Look at this is like the Rock arms and Kevin Hart arms. I just wanted to. I was looking at it.
There's a sleek thing going on that you got going on. It's the aerobic athlete look versus the
we'll take it.
Power. I'm helping you out here.
Yeah, and we didn't plan to kind of match here with tan shirts, but it just happened today. Sometimes it just happens a lot.
Sometimes it happens a lot. 60% of the time, it happens 100% of the time.
That's very impressive. And we're going to talk a little about flow and about kind of a new approach to kind of how you're doing things, because you guys have so much going on between what you're doing in ministry, the church, authoring, all of sorts of programs. And then you guys have young families, and, you live in a world that demands. And so you have so much going on. So I'm really want to hear kind of some of the new things that you have going on. I want to hear about your book, Cory. Cory, why don't you start off? Tell us the name of the book and when that came out.
Yeah, the name of the book is What If I Told You? It came out in November of 2023. Obviously, I transitioned a little bit over the last 2-3 years into more of the counseling world and dealing with childhood traumas, religious trauma, kind of pinpointing proper self-talk. And so I wrote a devotional, a 21-day devotional. The 21 days is influenced by Dr. Caroline Leaf in her book, and all of her study that come out about it takes 21 days to replace a negative thought type thing. So I was like, oh man, I could utilize that into a 21-day devotional. I hate devotionals typically. And so I was like, I want to write a devotional for people who don't enjoy devotionals. So that was kind of like the goal. And so I wrote a 21-day devotional specifically around 20 statements or 20 words that people in the American church at least tend to not believe about themselves, like provocative words. Like we all can know that we're loved, but words like holy, righteous, what those actually mean and how those are a part of our identity already. So that was kind of like the inspiration behind the book. Had a lot of help between Channock and Britt and people on our team to kind of just write these inspirational. Each day is like a 2 to 4 page thing, and then so the practice of the book is conquering one negative thought in the 21 days. So pinpointing what's something you find yourself saying over and over to yourself, and really admitting that, because I'm a firm believer that many people are embarrassed to admit some of the things that they believe about themselves. Yeah. But if you never admit it, you can never confront it and replace it. And so it's kind of like, what's one thing that you find yourself saying over and over again to yourself? I'm not good enough, all that other stuff. Mm-hmm. Writing it down and then replacing it with a personal motto. And I use the inspiration of Aruba, which I don't know if you've been to Aruba. They have a slogan for their island that says "One Happy Island." So there's a lot of... What's that?
I vote for that. I vote for the Happy Island. That's great.
Yes. Well, in the book, I kind of explain what that slogan did for the island. Really short story is within 3 years, that slogan alone brought them from the least financially tourist island in the Caribbean to the most financially toured island in the Caribbean. And so just talking about how can you create a One Happy Island personal slogan in your own mind, and really using that personal motto to address the negative self-talk that you have. And then while going through identity pieces. So it's really a book on identity. I think it's my best writing to date. I'm really proud of it. And it's really helping. I encourage people to use it in their church setting. Like, it's a great book for small groups. It's a great book for large groups, and then to talk about it and whatnot. And so every day it's got little counseling things that we do. I have YouTube videos to go along with the book. I have certain
cool QR codes. You're so
it takes you to a QR code. You can listen to a song. It's interactive. So I really wanted to, actually, that was a big shout out to Dr. Matt Pendell. He was the one that challenged me around using the QR code, using interaction within a Devo style. So yeah, I really encourage people to get it. You can find it on Amazon. It is life-changing. It changed my life. So I know it can change yours.
And, and that's the beauty, because this is tried and true things that you've grappled with and applied, and it's clear. So it has that weightiness to it. I love the practicality of it. And I love the fact that they're short things, but they're really powerful. It's not just, well, okay, I'm going to talk myself into believing this. You actually give us things to do to help us grapple with these things, because a lot of times around those lies is so much shame, right?
Yeah, so much shame.
Help us to navigate. It's excellent. So I really
thank you
that. And I will say, with my new book that's coming out, not to segue me, but I said,
we should though.
QR codes. I'm going to do QR codes.
Let's go.
It inspired me.
I inspired the Dr. Catherine Toon. That's amazing.
It's a thing. It is totally.
I love it.
Anyway, thank you. Everybody go get it. It's actually really, really good. And
I think so.
Channock, you have a new program that is, wow. It's you call it the Reinitiative program. Is that this? Tell me, help us with that. It's
the Reinitiative program. To be able to tell the story though, I kind of have to start, honestly, at a rather dark place and a dark time in my life. Honestly, being raised in church, my parents were the founding pastors here at Hill City. So I've known this one church my whole life for 44 years. And now I'm leading this church. I've been lead pastor now for 12 years. And probably, I would say, even a little bit before COVID, I just got to a place where I knew that there was something more, something outside of just the gathering inside these walls and what we're able to do, which has been amazing, and we've helped set people free, and we've really walked out just this new covenant kingdom understanding over the last 7 or 8, maybe up to 10 years to get to where we're at, and it has been a beautiful thing. But for me, I am such a pragmatic person, and I like to also see accomplishment. And I've devoted my life to people. But I've also recognized in this journey that it's a lifelong process, helping people with helping believe they matter, with helping them in holistic healing, whether that's physically, mentally, spiritually. And I just got to a place where I'm just going to throw it out there that I was just over having services and over the monotony of it, and over just this is great, but this isn't all there is. And yes, this is our world as pastors to help shepherd and guide and lead the ones that that God sends and that call this place home. But at the same time, I need to help connect them to such a bigger world. And then really what opened my eyes is as I began to just travel around the world, places like India and South America and Europe. And I just had this, I don't even know what I would call it other than just an explosion of how I see people as tremendously beautiful and that we're all God's children. Yeah. And that message just kept exploding in my heart. And I'm thinking, man, but so why are we just stuck inside the walls of the church? So I would say, that happened a little bit before COVID, this tension I was living in, and then it led into, of course, COVID, was just a massive reset. And we came out of that breath of fresh air for me. And I'm thinking, okay, well, there's some new possibilities now. Hopefully this will get us to understand that we need connection, and not just connection with each other, but connection with community. And we kind of got back into old habits and old routines. And so it was probably 2021 into 2022, that year time frame was just, I called it a dark place, just because I was just over it. I'm thinking, is this really what I want to be a part of? This isn't it. There has to be so much more.
Yeah.
And I was just praying through all of that. And I was even coming up with series, things like Get the Funk Out, and things like Flow. And let's just flow more. Let's get out of traditions. Let's get out of habits. Let's get out of routines. But nothing really, I could preach it all day long, but I wasn't quite living it and helping others live it. And so I was telling Cory, like, I don't know how much longer I can keep doing this.
Wow.
And you just gotten off of a 6-week sabbatical.
Yeah, and in 2021, I took a 7-week sabbatical too, because I was in this place. And so just praying through what could be next for me and in my life. Well, I shared all that to get to January 2023.
I think we need to pause here.
We need to
come
pause?
back, because I think
Okay.
we need to give more to the backstory and
Okay.
how inspirational we got to hear. So pause right there. I'm going to take over.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Because I remember what he's talking about in 2018. We used to keep like records of attendance and baptism, all that stuff on a board. And he came in on a staff meeting one day and he just erased it all, like all of our records. And he said, we're no longer going to measure success by these things.
Wow.
And I remember thinking like, holy smokes. And it started to take this pressure off. You know, the pressure in church, like,
Oh, yeah.
those things, unfortunately, are what people have often gauged success. And he said a phrase that he didn't say. I'm surprised he didn't say it. He said, Sunday mornings will no longer be the pinnacle of what we do. They will just be a part of what we do. And it kind of shifted the focus of the staff. Little did we know that it would lead to what you're about to share. But so that was like a 5-year process of living in frustration. Okay, we believe that the Sunday morning is not the pinnacle. It's just a part. We believe in partnership, which we had a lot of organizations that we partner with. Like, we're not going to be the church that starts a foster care ministry because there's great partnerships that we already have with people that are doing a great job.
Right.
So people will be like, hey, let's be a part of that. And we're like, okay, great. Here's the organization that's already doing it, already has the paperwork, and they're doing it well.
Yeah.
Go serve there. We're not going to start a homeless ministry because we're in partnership with people that are already doing great homeless
Doing it
ministry
well.
in our city. So we had, in 2018, we had so many, like 9, I think, local partners that are doing great ministries. And so we're big, like, hey, we're not going to be pioneers. We're just going to be partners with people who are doing it. So we're going to do this Sunday morning and then encourage you to serve, not in our church, but serve in our community. Well,
I love that takes
again,
some
what he,
security because it's not about
Yeah.
you and your program and your whatever. You're like sending out. Go
For
serve.
sure.
You're doing this well. That's amazing.
for sure. So then we,
Having started a church as well at some point and knowing all the behind the scenes of what tends to happen, what you grapple with, and we don't want it like this, but what is it? So that's so good.
Right.
I'm loving this. So
Yeah.
keep going.
So then 2018, 2019, we actually hired this guy to come in to help us plan, hey, how can we get out in our community? How can we do this thing where the Sundays aren't the pinnacle? They're just a part. And so we hired somebody. Nothing really was landing. And so then 2020 happened, and we said 21, 22. We both wanted to quit more than ever in ministry, just so tired of not only the disagreement of the message of this house, but just in general, what's the point? Like, okay, you might disagree with our message, but do you love well? Because this guy loves better than anybody I've ever met. And I'm proud to say this guy's a walking Jesus. And when you get to know us outside of our podcast or outside of some of our teaching that you might disagree with, we're not only we're a lot of fun, but we love well. And so he used to tell people all the time, like, people might disagree with our message, but they can't disagree with how well we love, because we are going to be that inclusive church. We're going to be that, like, we don't just say on our sign, all are welcome.
Yeah.
We genuinely mean, hey, all are welcome. And we can get into that controversial topics if we want to, but literally all are welcome. And so 21, 22, we're both like, we're done. And then it was like, boom, 5 years of frustration. What are we actually supposed to be pioneering? What is a need in our community where there's not an organization? And we've been asking those questions for 5 years. Now the story. I think that was appropriate to bring up a lot of
No,
the
it's
context.
good. Yeah, a lot of those details.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, I was just kind of telling the overall story, but yeah, some of those details were 100% true. And especially coming in, just letting the team know, hey, Sundays are a part of what we do. They're not going to be the pinnacle. Even some of our hiring practices have changed in what we're going to hire for, because they've all been about that Sunday morning experience. And again, it's one of the things we do, and we want to do it with excellence. But that can't be the sole focus of any church organization, in my opinion. And it's about community transformation. And if we were to not be here, would the community even know? And so I began to ask questions like that. And so, so basically, if I pick back up January 2023, because I was done in this place, I started to kind of venture out more into the real estate world, which I was already a part of. I have some homes in my portfolio that I rent out. I've done some flips along the way, but I'm going to put my energy somewhere. And so I began looking for a home. I found one that I wanted to purchase to flip, and I couldn't put in an offer because it said at this time only owner-occupant, government agencies, or nonprofit entities can submit offers for the first 30-day period. So I waited the whole 30 days, day 31, submitted a bid, got the house, started the remodel process, and this is in February of that year. And the Spirit just kept reminding me of that phrase, like these houses, especially foreclosures and other auction sites, they don't want investors to get to it first. So they say, they give a period, owner-occupant, government agencies, nonprofit entities. And that phrase just kept going over and over again in my mind. And it was like a light bulb moment. Like the only one maybe I've ever had in my life was like flashing lights, nonprofit entity, nonprofit. And I'm like, wait, our church is a nonprofit. Wait, why?
Ding, ding.
We as a church have an opportunity to go and possibly get into the real estate world, get into the housing market, help people with affordable housing, which is a huge need in any community around the world. And so I think, it just started this explosion of what could be. And then that's where I got with our board and I came up with this idea that I'm calling the RE-initiative. It's not doing some initiative again. It's this idea of READ and the power that comes with RE. And you think about all of these messages that the churches carry, like restoration, revive, re-empower, redeem. And I'm thinking we have an opportunity to really be light into our community through offering affordable housing to our community. And everybody benefits, everybody wins. The church can use it as an allocation of investment that they want to foresee in. We can offer it to affordable housing that changes and transforms life. But I don't just want to be a landlord as the church. I actually want to be someone who empowers families for home ownership. And so I got with the board and I said, hey, this is something we're going to do. So we had a few months of meetings, what it's going to look like, where we're going to get the funding, how we're going to raise the money, just the ins and outs of all of what this RE-initiative could look like. Well, it was August of 2023 that one of our board members sent me a house and said, this would probably be a great start. And I'm like, let's just do it. Let's get started. And we went through the process of remodeling the home, restoring the home, renovating the home, all those re's, right? And gutted it to studs and went through the process of bringing life back to this home in the community. But along the way, it's not just about the housing piece of it. As Cory said, we have a lot of ministry partners that we do a lot of work with in our area. And one of the biggest needs that a lot of these ministries have, because a lot of them will help women coming out of domestic abuse situations. They have temporary housing for them. They have programs for them, whether they're 12 months, 18 months, 24 months. They go through these programs, have a graduation moment to get out of the programs and the temporary housing they've been living in, but there's no other transition season for them. And so what I said is we're going to actually pick up the mandate to offer affordable housing for single moms specifically in our community. And so we partnered with these ministries, and we worked from August. Like I said, we completely renovated the house to studs, built it all back brand new in New Albany. And we actually had our first single mom and her family who graduated from this ministry called Jacob's Well in our area move in with her 2 kids this past December. But little did I know that this was going to reignite passion again in my life. I've never been more fulfilled. We've gotten people on board, volunteers. We've got businesses from the community now donating material. So as a church, right, we also get these properties. We get to have them we pay no property tax. Right. All the material used is tax exempt. And we have this selection of people that really have been seeking me out, that they want volunteer opportunities in our community. And so it's just been such a healthy thing as the whole community has bought into this. And so that was from August to December, and then we moved the first family in, and it's now only May.
Hold on.
What's that?
In December, we had our end of the year meeting, and he said that his goal for 2024 was to be managed.
Add 2 more houses.
Add 2 more houses, so 3 total. So that's our goal for the whole year.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can continue.
Okay, so that was the goal for the year, to add 2 more. Like, let's ramp this up a little bit. And it's only May, and we've added already 4 more. So we're at a collection of 5 total, 2 of them that we're working on. One of them we've already started in January, finished last month in April, and we had another single mom that graduated another program. Her and her son moved into this small 2-bed, 1-bath that we've completely renovated from scratch. But the coolest part of this, as we're just getting the word out about what we're doing it just in an organic way. We're not in people's faces with it or anything like that. We know God's in this, and it's amazing because about a month ago we actually had the building inspector for our city here in New Albany give us a call, and usually it's never good to get a call from the building inspector. Usually it's fines and fees, and we've done things wrong.
You violated something.
Right.
Yeah.
And so he reached out and just said, hey, so the city's talking about this housing initiative you're doing. Can you tell me more about it? Like, is this legit? Like, is the church making money on it? And I just kind of went through the program and what it is. And I said, not only is the church not making money on it, we're actually giving back everything that these ladies, it's a 2-year program, everything that these ladies pay in rent over 2 years, we gift them back as a down payment to be able to buy the home from us.
But they don't know that yet.
Yeah. And so
You should share that publicly.
Yeah, it's okay. I've shared it before. It's okay. And so, and the building inspector was like, the mayor's talking about it. I've been emailing back and forth with the leader of the redevelopment commission for the city of New Albany, and I haven't done anything other than just be obedient. And hey, this is what God's has for us in the season to pioneer, to walk out, to work out, and it's just been one of those things that the whole community has taken note. People are volunteering. We've had companies donate thousands and thousands of dollars of material. Our first house, we had over 1,100 volunteer man hours on the first house. The second house, we had over 500 volunteer man hours. It was a smaller house, less renovation. We've gotten nearly $15,000 of donated goods from different businesses just wanting to support it. And so, so that is the re-initiative in a nutshell. And it's what I've been doing for the last, now just 8 months, but in 8 months, we're up to 5 properties. And the coolest part is one of these 5 properties is actually an old church building in the city that is actually zoned commercial. And so right now we're kind of dreaming on what this space could be for the community. And what we started even last week, just walking around the community. I'm not knocking on doors. I'm not doing any of that stuff. If I see people out, I'll introduce myself, tell them I'm their new neighbor, and just strike up a conversation. And we're actually asking the community what they would like. And I've actually met with several people already, and they're like, wait, the church wants to know what we would want here. And I'm like, yeah, because I'm not doing services. I promise you this little church building won't be something that's a church plan. It's not going to be a Sunday morning come in and listen to worship and a message for half hour. No, Do you need a daycare here? Do you need a bakery here? What does this community actually need? Because we're going to help provide it, and because God sees your need, He wants to meet the need. And I've developed so many
pretty
relationships around that. I'm actually getting a little emotional right now, just
I'm
thinking
getting
through
emotional, so
through
The
through all that
stories
God
are
has done.
incredible.
And I probably have a collection that I've been taking note on of no less than 20 to 30 stories that would blow your mind, that only God could do in this.
We're in the
That's not
process.
coincidence.
We're in the process of recording those and whatnot. Actually, what is the website? Because by the time this goes live, that website might be live.
It could be live. It's re-initiative.com.
Yeah.
okay.
You'll be able to hear some of the testimonies, see some of the properties, get the story. And the coolest thing with this, Catherine, and I'll end with this, and we can move on to some more cool stuff if you want. But I'm developing this website, and I got with one of the ladies here, and I'm sending all the material and the resources that we've been creating, things like the checklist, what homes we look for, what homes are going to be in the tiers to either keep for transition housing, to sell back to the women, what does the application look like for these women? What is the committee? Because I've developed a committee with this. We also have a mom mentoring program, which, and I didn't even talk about that yet, that I've developed, that each of these ladies get paired with a mom mentor that walk through them in life, weekly check-ins, weekly texts, month visits, because we care about holistic healing for them, not just providing a house. And so we have the mom mentoring program we've set up through this, and we have the lease that we've had attorneys and things help us on. So literally all of this material I've been sending to this lady, like, hey, I want you to keep track of these, format them correctly, put them in a package, put our logo on them, like, because we really are going to need this package. And I said, I'm not in a hurry with this, but let's just keep track of getting this file together that we can send people or put on our website or something, because I really see, and I said this to her, I said, in 3 to 5 years, people are going to be asking for this. People are going to take note of what we're doing, and they're going to want to see it. So 3 months later, not 3 years, 3 to 5 years, 3 months later, I had a pastor call me 2 weeks ago and said, hey, I've heard about this housing initiative. Can I meet with you? Because I want to know how you did it, because we want to do it too. And they're in the neighboring town from us, and I met with him this past Wednesday, and I started to send him all of this packet that I thought was going to be sending out to people in 3 years, but it was 3 months later.
Yeah. It has been crazy, because let me put in some details, and it might make you think some more to share. One of the biggest re's that you didn't share, which I was surprised you didn't share at first, is rethinking church.
Yeah.
Like this program, okay, Sunday mornings, I don't want to say are always going to be a part, and I told that to our church. For the foreseeable future, they'll be a part, because that's one way that we can get people involved. Mm-hmm. But we want people to view this re-initiative as a way to rethink church, because right, we are the church, and church embodiment is really about empowering your community. And maybe this isn't the greatest need in your community if you're watching this. Maybe this is something to inspire you to start asking that question. What does your community need that you as a church can provide that actually is what the church is supposed to be doing? And so that was one of those questions that came up, and why we started this specific route. Now, we've had a lot of help with people that are very capable of doing it, but it's been so fun to watch this guy, because we've gone on the roller coaster loop of, man, I hate church. Like if this is all it is, we tell people all the time that our church is a church for people that don't like church. Like you will find your place here, and because the goal is we will provide a great Sunday morning experience for you. We have super and talented people. I mean, Britton and the team, just incredible worship. We got an incredible teaching team
Kids
for
ministry,
our kids ministry. Pastor Tish, she's amazing. Like all of when people come here and they see the talent and they're like, oh, wow, you're only a church of a couple hundred people. Like this is incredible. And it is a testimony, not just to our talented team, but the incredible foundation that was laid for 40 plus years of integrity, of character, of financial stewardship, so that we could be walking in the blessing. It's provided us an opportunity to not only ask our community what we need, but then provide for our community in a way that many churches aren't able to do because of the generation before us. And so we want to be good stewards for the generation after us, because we're generational thinking. And so how incredible is this going to be for our kids to pick up in not just Sunday morning services, but actual real community impact from the Monday to Saturday. You know what I'm saying? And so that has been so fun to watch him kind of get his passion, because as the lead pastor, he rarely preaches. He hates preaching. He would rather be out in the community, which is awesome. Like, we have a really cool dynamic of team players that do different things and different roles. And it's very unique as a church to be like, yeah, our lead pastor preaches 10 to 12 times a year. But we're kind of redefining what a lead pastor should look like, and redefining what church should look like, rethinking what church should look like, and all that stuff. So it's been a lot of fun to be a part of. And what's really cool is my generation and the generation below me, even though they might not love church, they want to be a part of something that actually makes an impact. So people aren't leaving the church. They're leaving churches that aren't making an impact. And so what has been super cool about this is we have people that are giving to this church initiative because it's actually a tangible thing that they can see. It's not just paying salaries. It's not just paying for lights and bills on a church property. We tell people, if you want to get involved financially, 100% of your donation to this will go 100% to this initiative. And we have people that have never set foot in church giving to church-funded organizations because they're seeing what is happening. And I think that is like the coolest thing, because we don't do this to be like, hey, you should come be a part of Hill City. We could care less if anybody comes to our church because of this initiative. This is more of a fulfillment and a direction where God is leading us to just be obedient, whether we see fruit from butts and seats, because that's not the goal. We're seeing fruit in people's lives being changed that would never step foot in a church. And they're hearing our message because they're doing life with us now. So
Yeah, I'll share two quick stories based on
Good
some things that
stories.
he said. So he talked about the next generation. So I mentioned that first house, over 1,100 man hours. A little over half of that, 600 of those volunteer man hours, were actually from teenagers
Wow. That's
and students from the local high school RLTC program that wanted to come and serve and to give back, which is super cool. And so you have that. And then you have on the other end of the spectrum, some of our oldest members, some of our founding families. Just a few weeks ago, I just loaded them up in the car and I took them around to all the 5 properties, telling stories about how we acquired the properties, which some of those stories also are so incredible. But just stories that have happened since we've been there and since we moved in, talking about the ladies that are living there and telling their story. And we got to the 5th house and I was then taking them home, and she was like in the back seat getting emotional, and just saying that she's never been more excited to be part of the church since this church was a Bible study in the late 70s.
that's
the last
that's a
time
crazy statement.
that she's been this excited for anything that we've done as a church.
I love it
and
when
been
you
a
get
part of.
emotional. by the way.
I'm holding
I know
back.
you're trying to hold it back. Just
I'm
let it
holding
out,
back.
baby. Let those tears out.
So it's pretty cool.
That is wow. I mean, I'm emotional. I'm just getting chills. This is such the heart of God. This is where,
We think so.
right, where it's just this service, and just what's beautiful is there's transformation for the ones that you're ministering to, but it's actually transforming you as well. Just seeing
Yeah.
you two talking about this, and your faces are glowing, just so you know.
Yeah, so that's pretty much the Reinitiative in a nutshell: restoring homes, reviving hope, and rethinking church. That's our three-point motto for it, and we see all of those things happen. And just real quick, I don't know if you know a good friend of ours. His name is Dwayne White. He's out of Texas. He leads the O2 network, and shortly after starting this and having our first home, one of the ladies in our church came up to me with notes from almost 10 years to the day, like we're talking February 2013. And remember, I told you this kind of whole thing started like January, February, 2023. So almost 10 years to the day, our friend Dwayne White was with us, and he prophesied that this church was going to be a beacon of light, of hope into the single moms of our community. And then later on, he shared that what we have and what we're going to build is a prototype, not following a blueprint.
It's so crazy.
That's exactly what I was seeing this as just a
Crazy.
a prototype for, and I'm just really believing that there's going to be others that are going to grab hold, because you guys are doing this so well and the fruit is there. And, I was just hearing the heart of the Lord saying that, yeah, this is me and my kids ministering to the forgotten ones. The forgotten ones, and the ones that have felt forgotten in such a powerful way. And it's just so transformative in the giving, and it's so transformative in the receiving. That is, wow. That is, I'm just tripping over myself because I'm blown away. That's just amazing. So
Yeah.
do you have
Pretty
some
awesome.
other stories you can share with us with the fruit that's come out? Because this is the
Which one are you
juice.
gonna
I
pick?
mean, I have a lot of stories. You really want to hear a couple of them?
Of course.
So the coolest part of this initiative as well is getting to know the neighbors in our community. And so I take time whenever we're at any home to get to know the neighbors, let them know what we're doing. But specifically, I do that because I want to be able to like show love to them in a way that they might not have felt for years. And so as we were building and renovating the second home, the next door neighbor house, which honestly is known as the drug house on the street, two sisters live there and two older sisters. And everyone, as I was meeting all the other neighbors, they were like, "That's the house you need to stay away from." And I'm like, "Well, that's the house I actually need to be at."
Going in.
Yep.
Yes.
And that's funny you say going in because I go and introduce myself and talk to the lady there, such a sweet lady. Her name's Teresa. And probably talking to her for just maybe less than 2 minutes about who we are, what we're doing next door, literally the house next door to the one we're renovating. And she's like, "Are you a contractor?" I'm like, "No, but I know contractors and I can be a contractor. What's going on?" And so she's like, "Hey, come on in. I need you to come in my house."
This is great.
So she just invited me into the house and she's showing me around, but she wanted to share the story too. Like her mom and dad built that house. They grew up in that house. They left it to them when they passed away. And, people just want to be heard sometimes too. So I just sat there in her living room and listened to her stories. And she showed me a few things that were going on. And she was getting her roof repaired and insurance was taking care of that. And she was showing me her oven and the stove on top worked, but the oven portion doesn't in her range. And I'm like, well, okay. And then she showed me a couple other little things, and I was leaving, and walked out the door, and I said,
She had crock pots. You forgot.
oh yeah, her oven didn't work. She had crock pots on the stove as her oven. It hadn't worked, and she told me it hadn't worked in over a year. So she was using crock pots. And so I go to leave, and I'm like, "Hey, Teresa, I'm not sure what all we can help with some of those projects, but I'll tell you what, God's going to come through with the stove. So however it's going to happen, we're going to find you a stove." I immediately called a friend and because I thought they might have one available, but it turned out they didn't. I'm like, well, God will provide a stove, and at the end of the day, I will go buy this lady a range if I have to.
Okay.
And so I'm going to give it some time because I know God can come through. So I gave it about 2 weeks, didn't hear anything, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to go to Home Depot to buy a range. So I'm at Home Depot and I go back and I'm like, okay, the cheapest range, it was like $548, and I'm like, man, $548. Okay, is there any other way? I'm like, I'm going to give it just a little more time because I just feel like someone has to have a range available, like they've renovated a house. And so I was literally walking out of the appliance department right next to the ranges, and a guy comes up and says hello and actually says, "Hey, I've been meaning to talk to you because I visited your church." He's only come twice. And he's like, "I wanted to let you know, like the message you had, it was amazing. I connect to it. I'm not really much on church and I like to be out in the community. And I think we just live it as the church. We don't go to buildings and all that." And just kind of one of those guys that I really relate with, to be honest.
As pastors.
Yeah, as pastors. And we're sitting there talking. We probably have a 20, 30-minute conversation about community and impact. And he knows what we're doing because I've actually had him come out and help a little bit on the homes. He's put in some closet shelving and just some stuff like that. That's how he actually came to our church. And he also knows his brother and half-brother is actually on our board as well. So he wanted to visit. So anyway, we wrapped up the conversation, and I'm like, "Man, this is so cool. I ran into you. Matter of fact, I only ran into you, speaking of community, because I'm here looking for a stove for our neighbor for that house that you came over to." He's like, "You need a range?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "You're not going to believe this." And I'm like, "No, I will believe it." What? He goes, "Yesterday, I had to help this guy clean out his house, and I kept the range. He was giving it away, and it's out in my truck right now. And I was thinking, who am I going to give this range to?"
In the Home Depot parking lot.
So perfect. Of
So-
course.
Of course.
So
So you
perfect.
forgot the range and you went and bought one. And
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I'm just
So got the range from him, and we went and installed it at Teresa's house, and just that little act of love. Like she says hello now. She comes out to see us. Matter of fact, we had a little open house, and she was one of the only ladies that came over.
Yeah, she came over. She hollered.
to the open house.
I
and
hadn't
wanted
met her
to
yet,
see
so I was like,
it.
"Yo, what's up?"
So,
that's so beautiful.
yeah.
That's one of
I could
so
just
many
keep telling stories like the whole time, like all day. I could literally keep you on here all day and just tell stories like
Right.
that have happened in the last 8 months.
I just love it. And the beauty of it is the details of what God is orchestrating. Like he cares that his daughter had to cook out of crock pots because, right. And that birthed that compassion in your heart, like one way or the other. But I love it. It was not only prepared, it was on the truck ready to be delivered.
Yeah.
Come on.
Right. I mean,
Right.
that is just, it is so perfect. So and the beauty of it is it's not just the transformation for the one who's receiving the house, but for the neighbors. I mean, this is such the heart of God, and
It really is.
Yep.
It's so fun to watch because people will be like, okay, now we got to try and get them into the service. And you're like, you're missing the point. I almost hope that they never come to the service because the goal is we have relationships with these people that ultimately would never go to a church service. And I think we've gotten evangelism way wrong. Evangelism shouldn't have a pressure. I was taught that evangelism has a pressure. You got to do these things that are just uncomfortable, right? And evangelism is a flow or an overflow of what's already in you. And so how easy is that to give that away when you know who you are? And so it's kind of just reshaped even how we approach evangelism, even how we approach ministry out in our community. Like so many churches are so focused on getting people in their service to experience their service as if that's the only way. Again, we do that stuff, but it's, again, the church services aren't to tell people about Christ or invite them to Christ. The goal is to reveal Christ already in them. And I think what an incredible revelation of we get to do that on a regular basis with these people that would never step foot in a church building, but they get to experience the church on a regular basis.
Well, and this is preaching that. What's really sweet about that is there's such a link to what's the heart of your book in terms of waking up to who you are, getting past all these lies,
right.
Christ in you. And then what does that look like? And when you think about this, let's think about this. We call it a church service, so which means there's service. But as the church, we get to serve. And what does serve look like? I mean, Jesus gave us one commandment to love as he loves. And love will look like service, but it's not out of obligation. It's out of love. It's just the flow and the overflow of that to the one before you, the one in your community, and the one peripheral to that, and the one peripheral to that. And that's what inspires people. That is so beautiful. I'd love to have another story. So if you haven't, I mean, you said you have.
Yeah, I'll tell you one more story. Especially, I'm going to tell the story because I think when we opened up, you mentioned that today we're going to be talking about flow and how things aren't forced. And so let me just tell you this story of how we acquired the last two properties that we received. So the first property was on a street called Silver Street here in New Albany, where we live. And as we were renovating that property, there was 3 blocks down another property that opened up, which happened to be an old church building and a house next door that I guess used to serve as the parsonage. We're not sure. And we had a friend send us the link to the property while we were working. I'm like, we're on this street. Yeah, I pass it all the time. I see it. He's like, you should go check it out. And at the time, it was listed for $220,000. And so we kept our eye on it. That was a little bit about our price range. We didn't want to even come in and make a lowball offer. It lowered to 200. And then by December or January, it lowered to 180. And we're like, you know what? Maybe we ought to see if this is something possible. We could put the house into the initiative program and the church building. It says it's zoned commercial, so who knows? Sky's the limit. We could put whatever there. Yeah. So Cory and I actually went in January to look at it, and we thought it could serve our needs, but we lowballed offer. Matter of fact,
there was a lot of issues with it.
There it needs work. I will say that, but we did lowball, even though they just lowered it to 180. We lowballed and said, hey, we were talking to our realtor, like, I think all we could do is 140 on this property. And he's like, I talked to the realtor. They're not taking any lowball bids right now. They just lowered the price. And so now that I don't think we should even submit that. So we didn't submit the bid. And, we've kept thinking about it though. Like I've kept thinking, like, what could we use that for? And what could that space be used for? And a few months go by, over 2 months go by. And honestly, at this point, I think about it from time to time, but also I've kind of forgotten about it as well. That whole thing, like sometimes the church building comes up and I'm like, I don't even think to go look at the property anymore and or the listing anymore. Well, I had a friend that I play basketball with, and talking about being the church when you don't even recognize you're out there living as the church, not just something you come to. So this friend of mine sent me a text one morning, just a few weeks ago, a little over 2 weeks ago, and he said, I have a house lined up for you. I think it'll be perfect for the reinitiative. All you have to do is say yes. And I'm like, yes, I think. He's like, you remember that church and that house that I sent you the link to back in like November, December that you went and looked at? I'm like, yeah. He goes, the house is yours for $130,000. All you have to do is just call the realtor. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
Wow.
He's like, well, I went in there and I lowballed him and I gave him an offer of 120 for me to buy it. And that's all I could go. They came back and said, no, we can't do that, but we can do 130. And my friend told the realtor and told the seller, it's sold at 130. When you write up the purchase agreement, put Hill City Church because my buddy Channock Banet's going to buy it. And
this is a guy that owns like hundreds of properties here in New Albany. Could have done it for what was 130 to him? Like he could have easily done it, but so
I called the realtor and I was like, hey, I'm Channock. I think I'm supposed to be calling you. Yeah, I have the purchase agreement all wrote up for you right here. What email do I need to send it to? The house is yours and all the properties are yours for 130.
10 under what we were going to offer just 2 months
back in
before.
January.
It's so crazy.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. And it's so great about that is when you enter that flow, God really brings it together. What's interesting is that, with both stories, there's kind of a little bit of a delay. It's like, well, we need a stove, but no, not yet. And no, that's not how it's supposed to be. I could do it. Sometimes we jerry rig things like, okay, and you could have gone out and bought it, but God had another way to get it, which just shows him connecting the dots. And the same thing with the home. It's like, well, I kind of forgot about it, but then every now and then, okay, yeah, and then I kind of, okay, whatever. And then it comes to you. And that is all that flow. This is us just entering into what God is already doing. This is the heart of God to take care of his daughters, to take care of the kids, to take care of his church, to take care of the ones that wouldn't step into church, but they're his sons and daughters that he's wild about. And, so how do we do that? And then the joy of being able to be a part that inspire, like, I want to do that. I want to give this. I want to give my time. I love that with the teens, like, come on, you are off your phone and you are contributing hours to something that is not about you. I mean, how gorgeous is that? So I am loving this. This is great.
Yeah. And go ahead.
No, I'm good. I'm done.
I was just going to say, like, one of the things that he had to overcome that he doesn't share often is, remember, we have this perspective of what a lead pastor looks like. Mm-hmm. So not only are we changing that, but he had to overcome some of the guilt of not being in the church building or not preparing sermons and, what lead pastors typically do. Yeah. And once we were able to get over that hump and change some structure, even within our church service, and change some titles and whatnot, it freed him up to be the pastor that, in my opinion, he was always supposed to be, because he thrives in that. And now I'm not in the community as much as he is. Yeah. Personally speaking, I'd rather do the one-on-one counseling. That's what my gifting's in. I'd rather do the preaching. It's what's my gifting in. Not saying that he wasn't gifted in that, but he gets life out of being in the community. So like when we were able to shift over the last year and both actually be in our sweet spot, that realistically we really didn't even know that these were our sweet spots until we were actively involved in them. Right. Not only did we have to get over some of that guilt and pressure of what always was, but it's kind of blown up in a way where, like he said, you heard him say he's never felt more fulfilled. As one of his best friends, I've been able to see it because, when you walk through life with somebody, you experience their ups and downs, but you really experience their downs.
Yeah.
And we didn't even really collectively, and I think you would admit this publicly, you didn't even realize how low you actually felt until you've experienced what we're now experiencing. And it's kind of fun to even go back and be like, wow, we were depressed. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
wow, we hated everything in life and everyone.
Right.
And it's still being faithful to what we were called to do in that moment until God brought new light. And that's, I think, one of our biggest challenges. A lot of people would look at that situation and say, oh, you were faking it till you make it. No, we were being faithful to the assignment until we made it.
Until
And I
you
think we
know.
should, yeah, I think we should shift that whole mentality. If you're not sure where or what God is calling you to in this season, I would say just keep doing what you're doing until he opens a new door, because there is something, I hate that whole fake it till you make it expression. I love changing it to just being faithful to where you are in the season that you're in until something else opens up.
And so much of this is an exploration of what's inside, an exploration of your own heart, and you don't know what that looks like. When you're talking about it, that you're talking being faithful. I was thinking of Jesus saying, well, I have flocks that you know not of. So you're pastoring those flocks, the ones, right, as well as the ones in the church,
Yeah.
but the ones
Yeah.
that need the oven ranges, and that need to
Yeah.
know that God sees me and he cares about what I care
Totally.
about. And I say this a
Yeah, it's a
lot.
both and, not an either or.
Exactly. And it's so beautiful. And the freedom that's brought you personally, but you both, that you're able to find that. Because I think so much of the time we kind of get our assignment and then we kind of stop, and this is what I'm doing. And this is all it looks like. And God is so expansive with that. But you had to be faithful to what you knew in what it looked like in order to get the next thing of where he's bringing it. And so we're
Yeah.
holding this with open hands and letting God lead it, and dealing with the fears of like, well, it doesn't look like I thought, or I felt obligated, or whatever. And that is such freedom. And I really see so much of this journey is not just about the reinitiative, which is that's incredible in and of itself. Yes, hallelujah, amen. But it's also a model. It's also a prototype as pastors, as teachers, as leaders, as whatever your dealio is, that you have this freedom to be able to express that in a way that's really unique, in a way that actually has life, that you don't have to stay stuck in the rut. You handle what you have, you do what you have, you're faithful, expecting God to bring you into a place of something that's beautiful and has such life. Because if it doesn't have life now, that means God's directing you somewhere else. He's leading you into another pasture to feed and to contribute, and giving people permission to do that. And it takes bravery. It takes bravery to let go of kind of what we thought it looked like, and give yourself permission to really follow God. And whoa, this is something new, and this is what this looks like now. And it is a win-win-win-win-win. God is always into the win-win.
Yep.
And I just,
Yep.
yay, I'm applauding. And
Yep.
so there's so many things he's doing. And what you guys are modeling is, wow, that is so
Yeah.
freeing for so many. And thank you for sharing. Like, I was so depressed. I love my church, but I don't want to do it.
Yeah. I read some of my journal entries in sermons to be like, this is where I'm at. And that was before we even had what we have now in terms of like fulfillment. Like, we've both have never been more fulfilled than we've ever been in ministry. And I've been in ministry most of my life, but it's like, it wasn't easy to get here. And yeah, we wanted to quit every other month for like 4 or 5 years, but it's been fun to get to where we are now because it has been so life-giving.
It's so true. And just the hope that, if you're in ministry and you're called to ministry, but you want to quit. And I don't personally, I don't want to say I don't trust people. I just don't think people have been in it long enough if they haven't wanted to quit multiple times. So,
Right.
it's rugged. But, yeah, that's part of the process. And you don't bolt because you're faithful, but you're like, Lord, what is it? Because, where he leads, there's life. And so it is, and so giving ourselves permission to follow that. And it's kind of transition to what we're talking about, the flow. And you guys had brought this up, and we don't have a ton of time, and we've really talked about it, but, but that permission that you give is to flow with something new. and take that risk. And what's that desire that he is igniting within? Yeah. So feel free. Take it from here. Somebody.
Go ahead.
I got nothing. Like, yeah, living in the flow is, I do want to only say this, and I know we've kind of already said it. There is no pressure in the flow. It's awakening to the fact that living water has always been on inside of you. Whether you're aware of it or whether you even believe, living water has been inside of you. And so many of us don't realize that. So it gets stayed like a reservoir. And so we almost have to break these dams, and the dam are your damn thinking, like the way that you think. Yeah. And so you almost got to break those dams so that the living water that's already within you, because Christ is within you. How do you release that to other people? Because it should be what I like how the Message version gives Matthew 11:28. It's his yoke is easy and his burden is light, or his yoke is light and free. Right. And so what are you carrying that's not light or free? Doesn't mean there won't be work involved, but the motivation behind your work will be different, which makes it light and free. So yeah, I would say that we have never worked more in our life. Yeah. But it has never been more free and light in our lives.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because living in the flow, it's not like we're just like in la la land and whatever comes today. No,
you're like tubing.
I've been working my butt out, butt off with all these properties, and I'm still overseeing the team and overseeing the board, and I still had all my normal obligations
not all.
As a pastor,
not as much,
minus preaching just a few less times a month, a few less times a month. But all my other responsibilities stay the same, and now I'm adding to it, like starting this whole initiative with the housing, and it takes a lot. But the coolest part is that, like, living in the flow like this, that's not forced. People are attracted to that, and they can sense that they can come along and help without feeling like it's a heavy weight on them either, and they know that it's something that God is doing. And so, if I don't have the time or even a whiteboard behind me to show like how this like has branched out, and the people that we have, like I talked about with our committee, with the mom mentoring programs, we have ladies that specifically meet with the ministries and like talk about the women that could potentially become available to apply for some of this housing. Like the reach is, we have a guy that just does maintenance. I got 2 retired guys that show up 20, 30, 40 hours a week that just want to help out, and it's given them purpose in life finally. And I actually feel bad sometimes. They're like asking them to go do something or whatever, but they're calling me. They're calling me and saying, hey, I'm here. What needs done today? And I'm like, you sure you don't need the day off? Like you're supposed to be retiring and living life. He's like, this is me living life like I've never lived before.
Yeah, we went out to dinner last night for my birthday, and he gets a text from the guy who was like, is this what you needed done? And it was already done. And you hadn't even asked him yet. And we're like,
I didn't even, put it on the schedule yet, and it's already done. So, I mean, for me, what I found is the more I live in the flow and connect to the flow of what the Spirit's doing, what the Spirit's saying, the less I try to force in my thinking or my mentality with things, the better the outcomes have been.
Oh my gosh, so beautiful.
Yeah.
I
Free and light.
I'm so happy. You guys look so happy. It just makes me so happy.
We are.
Everybody's wanting to join the happy, right? Everybody's I want part of that, because this is really, reflecting God so well, where the rubber meets the road. Well, I'm loving this so much, but I know we have a hard stop, and I want to honor that. How do people connect with you? How do they get involved? All the stuff. How do they find your book?
Yeah.
Right, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, you can find our church, hillcity.tv, HILLCITY.tv. You'll be able to see us or find the re-initiative.com. Hopefully it'll be live by the time this goes live. If not, just give us some time. If you were to go to that website right now, it's
just a blank page.
It's pretty much, yeah. It says something, but it's not true. Yeah. We own it, but it might not have stuff on it yet. You can find us on social media. We're both on Facebook and Instagram. I actually run his Instagram account. And a lot of people message him, just so you know. That's me talking back because he hates Instagram. We are on 2 Pastors and a Mic podcast. We have like 100 and some odd episodes that you can binge.
170 something.
Yeah, you can go binge. A lot of good topics, a lot of practical life topics, a lot of faith topics, a lot of controversial topics. That's always fun. I've got a website, saintsnotsinners.com. So I've got a lot of blogs, and you can find all my books there. You can find all my stuff on Amazon. What If I Told You book by myself, Cory Rice. I truly will bless you, because our whole message is helping you believe that you matter.
Book.
Oh, we have a transition book, but you can only order that on our hillcity.tv if you want to understand covenants and the scriptures. It's like a coffee read. It'll take you 20 minutes. Super helpful, super easy to read, and mind-blowing to read, especially if you've grown up in church and never heard the language of covenants and why it's so important. And so, yeah, we do have a lot of resources. That was a lot. You can go to hillcity.tv, find us on socials, email us. We're available by email. Our name's at hillcity.tv. So, yeah, we love all of it. But go to the podcast. Go buy my book. It's amazing. It'll really help you. It really will. I do believe in it. So
you say that. Go buy my book. It's amazing, and it
just
really
go do it.
Yes, do it.
Yeah.
It's a Jesus thing.
Costs $11.28. That's nothing.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you should read the book. Those of you that are listening right now, I will say this one thing we didn't talk about, at least I don't think we talked about, was just over the last couple of weeks, this guy sitting next to me is now Dr. Cory Rice.
Oh, stop that.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
So he officially
incredible.
graduated from Global Grace Seminary. Yeah, with
I'm
his
actually
doctorate.
super proud of what we created because of that. I created a 6-week course on emotional health, and really just as how to lead yourself before you lead others, finding out your emotional blind spots. And so hopefully being able to monetize that, promoting that out with people. If you want to invite me to your team to share it, I'm going to condense it into like a weekend project thing. So holler at me. I'd love to do that. I love doing, that's my favorite thing. I love to preach, but I love more the one-on-one counseling, really helping people understand their emotional blind spots, because emotions don't make you weak. Ignoring your emotions make you weak. So we have to understand them, but then confront them from a wholeness perspective. You are whole in Christ. You've always been whole in Christ. Brokenness is an illusion created by trauma. I say that a lot. So understanding that the foundation of everything is Christ created you complete and whole, awakened to what has always been true. So
Hallelujah.
that's my high horse.
There we go.
Little thing. Yeah.
I love it. Oh my goodness, guys. This has been so much fun. You guys are going to have to come back, but I thank you for being on. Everybody come be a part. There's so much life here, and so we just need to connect and run with what's being stirred up inside. So that's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Big shout out. Jamie Englehart's got a network that we're hosting the conference. So a lot of people are coming out to that. If you know him, if you don't know him, I would encourage you to get involved in his network. It's not a denomination, thank God, but you can really learn and find out a lot of people that think like and are thinking like, oh, what more is there in terms of just church services? So there's a lot that we're hosting that conference here at the Memorial Weekend. So
ConnectInternationalMinistries.com.
Yeah, I would go be a part of that. I know Global Grace Seminary, if you're interested in going to school at a very affordable rate, I know you should definitely go part of that, which you, I think, are now a professor there. Holla at your girl.
Professor, who knew, right? So
I'm a big believer in the school too, as someone who just graduated from there. So I love all those guys. Dr. Matt Pendel, big shout out. He's amazing. So
Matt, love him. Love Jamie. So much love going around. It's so
for sure.
It's so good.
There's people around there. You don't do life alone. Yeah. You weren't meant to do life alone. I promise you, there's someone who is asking the same questions you are. They are available now because of the great web. So make sure you're taking advantage of some of these resources. Seriously, don't just, I know we just gave out so many, and we probably gave out so many psychologically, they say that no one will do any of those. So just pick one and do it. Probably my book.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys. I love you guys. Thank you for being on. And
thanks for having us.
Share this.
Thank you, Catherine.
And everybody have a great day. Love you guys.
Hey, we'll see you in a couple weeks.
Yes. Love you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Perspectives with Catherine Toon. For additional information and resources, please visit catherinetoon.com.